Hello everybody! Today we are going to leave the young earth creationists alone and we are going to go to the nonsense of Devil's Tower being a tree stump. And I am not going to pull any punches during this. I'm going to be snarky and condescending because the people doing these things kind of deserve it. And I'll just try to keep it to a minimum though, I promise. But, yeah. So, if those of you that don't know, by the way, these are my photos and videos from 2018 visit. I've been to Devil's Tower at least 4 times in my life. Once when I was a young teenager with my mother, once in field camp, and twice with now my wife. And this was our first time. We walked all the way around. Now, I want you to look at it. We're going to get into it later, what this stuff looks like. See if I can find a picture of a big columnar joint on the ground. That's my buddy Dave, my wife. The background is my wife. All right, so you walk all the way around this. It's not like in Close Encounters of the Third Kind where you can just scamper up the backside of it. You can't do that. It is legal to climb this, and we have pictures and video of people climbing it. So let's look. See, these are the columnar joints that fall in. They're about 3 meters or 10 feet wide. Let me see if I can show you here. So, yeah, the birds don't like it when they're nesting, and there's people around here. The width of one of these columns, columnar jointing, is about 10 feet, 3 meters. Sometimes a little bigger, sometimes they're not so big. Just remember that, because scale is important. This whole thing's just under 300 meters tall, but we're just going to say it's 300. That's fine. I see here's a nice trail map. Let's see. Oop, that's the bathroom. There's that. There's my wife against the flagpole. It's yeah. So I think that's pretty much all I'm going to show you from this. Let me see if let's play. See, looking at you see how it's more weathered up top. That may be it for a couple of reasons, but yeah, I was filming the birds, so it could be that we know the ground surface was up here at some point about 50 million years ago or so, and that could have eroded down here and been exposed for a while before quickly getting eroded. I don't know. There was uplift in the area. The building of the Rockies to the west uplifted this area, and when you do that relatively quickly, you get a lot of erosion. But we're going to watch some videos, short ones, just so I can talk about them. I don't want to get too much into this right now because we'll do it as we go along. I want you to look at the shape, too. I want you to see, they claim this is a tree stump. See how much it narrows on this side? Almost like leans. It's a pretty shitty tree. I don't know if you can see them. These are them. These are these columnar joints that have fallen. This is a smaller one. This one's probably only 2 meters, but you can still see it's big. I had sworn there was one where I was right by the sucker. See, this is also one. Just kind of see the hexagonal shape. This one's probably about 3 meters. I know it's not for scale. Well, you do have a bench here, so you can get an idea of the smaller ones. I could have sworn I had a picture of me by one of them. I guess not. Well, we're not going to sit here and search all day for it. I also want you to notice, see how the columns are here, and then you kind of lose the columns. They kind of level out for a while, and this is just erosion. This is not jointing here, at least not columnar jointing. Okay, first video is going to be from the William Shatner series, The Unexplained Mystery of Devil's Tower. It was in season 1. Now this, believe it or not, is the most sensible of all of these. That's saying something. This is probably the longest one, too. So, let's see what has to be said.
It rises from the earth like a giant fist, stretching out to strike the sky. A colossal, 900-foot shaft of rugged rock. One whose very name conjures notions of both awe and dread. Devil's Tower.
Devil's Tower is remarkable because you can drive across these sedimentary plains, see nothing but flat ground for...
He's talking about relatively level around the tower. There's some topography and going away. There are other formations like this.
For miles and miles. And then this tall, dark tower emerges as you drive towards it. There is nothing like it in the surrounding area. The rock
That's not true. Depends on what you mean like it. If you mean from a geomorphic standpoint, the shape is unique in the area. The rock itself is not. There are other igneous rocks in the area made of the same stuff. We'll get to the lithology later.
Has a grayish, even a greenish gray color. And so as you approach Devil's Tower, it's a distinct, stark contrast to the sort of tans and browns of the surrounding sedimentary rocks.
Located in northeastern Wyoming, Devil's Tower was declared America's very first national monument in 1906 by President Theodore Roosevelt, who sought to protect it as an object of scientific interest. Since then, many have asked, what could have caused this massive tower to form?
There are many theories about it, but...
Oh, great. A journalist. I'm sure we're going to get some enlightenment here. Guys, just a bit of advice. Science media, the media that claims to be for science. I don't know if this guy is or not. Just a general statement. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's popular science. I don't care if it's... I fucking love science, which actually is awful. I don't care. Those are fine for getting you to look at what might be new, but do not, please, I beg you, take what's written in the article as truth of what scientists think, because they are there to sell stories. They are there to get attention. They want you to read it. Go to the horse's mouth. Okay? That's just my advice to you.
But there's no agreement on what it was that produced this miracle of nature.
I wouldn't take it that far. There isn't a consensus on the exact mechanics, but we're pretty sure it involved melted rock, a melt, and some sort of volcanic action. That isn't really in dispute, except by the weird woo-woo peddlers who probably look at a dowel and their pareidolia says, well, it looks like a baby, so it must be a baby. Checkmate, scientists! Sorry, I woke Huck up.
It is made of volcanic-type materials, but there's no other
Oh boy, an engineer. Volcanic type materials. There's no such thing as volcanic type. It's volcanic. Well, I try to avoid using that word because it's interpretive, but you can have volcanoes that just fill craters. You don't need to have a mountain around it. And so that's a misconception about volcanoes.
volcanic activity around it.
That's untrue, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. That statement was completely untrue.
So what caused this thing? We don't know the answer.
Well, we know it was caused by the uplift of the Rockies to the west, and there's a lot of these... Oh, what's that in the background there? Maybe it's something like this. Oh, who knew? So volcanism went a little farther inland, too, because we're pretty sure that when the North American plate started overriding the ocean plate here, I don't want to say Pacific plate because it wasn't at the time, that it was a shallow subduction. So that would initiate volcanism further inland. And now it's a steeper subduction. So we don't get the volcanoes inland anymore. We get along the margin of the continent, like Mount St. Helens, Mount Rainier, all those things.
To that question, it's a really interesting conundrum.
Is Devil's Tower really a miracle of nature?
Really wish people wouldn't use that word. I know the journalist said that, but like I said, he's trying to sell you a story.
Something that simply cannot be explained.
Yeah, just look at these. Remember, these at their widest are 3 meters or 10 feet. Typically, they're 2 to 3 meters.
By natural and scientific laws? Sorry, but that explanation is simply not good enough.
As much as we like to walk around with the confidence that we know this planet and we understand the planet we live on, there seems to be nothing but mystery.
No scientist worth their salt is going to sit there and tell you that, you know, we have everything figured out, that's going to get blindsided by something else. We don't, and William Shatner's remark about physical laws of stuff. It's inapplicable. It's just to, gin up some because that's what this stuff does. It's entertainment. It's not trying to teach you anything. And like I said, this is the best one of them. So we know we don't know things. We know this. There are some things we're pretty confident we know, because science, there's never comes to a point where we're like, yes, this is absolutely the true truth, because that's not what science does. It finds the best fitting model for what we observe, okay? That's, what it does. We don't seek truth and proof in the absolute sense. But we are confident of some things, and we are also aware of our ignorance. Are we aware of all of our ignorance? No, because there's some frontiers we just can't explore with our technology at present, or our will, or the money to do so.
On this planet, we don't understand how to predict earthquakes. We don't understand how lightning travels. There's so many questions that we have about what produces the forces of nature.
What do we really know about this planet we live on?
Almost nothing, Bill. Almost nothing.
Just when we think we have Mother Nature figured out.
Bill, we don't have Mother Nature figured out. That kind of stopped in the 19th century, late 19th, early 20th century. Once relativity came out, we kind of got off that boat that we know everything. And we acknowledge our ignorance.
Something reminds us that we're not as smart as we think we are. After all, have we found a way to put out...
Actually, that's true. We are not as smart as we think we are.
...the Centralia fire? Or how Devil's Tower was formed? What?
Okay, National Park Service. Now, I know here, because I've been here many times, they give 4 basic ones. First, I want to talk about this. This is the surrounding sediments. We did do field camp. This was part of our area, but we didn't focus on it. We were more by the Black Hills. But this, I believe this formation is Triassic. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But it's very red compared to the other stuff in the area. And it's sedimentary. You can see the bedding. All right, formation theories. Stock, this is 1. Laccolith, that's another. Volcanic neck, that's a 3rd. And then we have this one. Steve, why is this such a problem? I mean, why can't it just be this? That makes sense. Well, we don't know that volcanic necks look like this inside of volcanoes. Nobody's really done that research. And they probably don't, because I'm going to tell you something a little bit here about, let's see if the picture still comes up. Okay, the reason why this is such a big issue isn't the fact that this is igneous rock and soft sedimentary rock around it's still there and that rock is gone. This is sedimentary. That's not the issue. We know there was uplift. We get that. The issue is, why is the columnar jointing? Columnar jointing usually forms in aphanitic, fine crystalline igneous rocks. I hear people all the time, even earth scientists, say this is basalt. It's not basalt. Now, it's almost vertical, and here, let's look at it here for a second. You can tell it comes out in almost level. That's Google Earth, obviously. So, what does that mean? Well, this tends to form perpendicular to melt movement. So, if this was in a volcanic neck moving upwards to the top of the screen, this should be horizontal, and it's not. Same thing with a stock. A laccolith is a little different, but it still wouldn't do this necessarily. The diatreme, that explains. Now, columnar jointing isn't always vertical. If this melt erupted subaqueous, underwater, it would mess with it. We do have known examples of that, but this is very, very textbook in how it looks, not in its trend, but how it looks. So we can't really use that there. All right. Well, let's minimize that from here. So this one is a little different. Now let's look at that paper. Here it is. This paper's free. It's on ResearchGate. I think it's somewhere else too. It's not like They're hiding it. Here's the title. Go look at it if you want. Now, I'm not going to get... Oh, this was the pre-reviewed version because they got the numbers there. I know the actual version is free on Geosphere. I know it is. So if you don't... But I don't need to know what the words are. I need to show you the figures more than anything. So you might be like, what is a coulee? And I believe that's how it's pronounced, Mar diatreme. And is volcanic, but it's not a volcano in the traditional sense with flanks on it and a mountain sticking up. It's more of like filling a low area. And this happens a lot. I mean, this happens in the still erupting volcanics in Arizona. You don't always get a mountain or a hill. Sometimes it just flows on land. It happens in the Mid-Continent Rift. You don't always get a hill. So let's see if it's even in here. I may have to go to the other one if they can't find the diagrams. I'm hoping they're at the end here because that's usually what they do. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So here's Devil's Tower, and we're not going to get into all that. Now you see what, oh, it looks like they went there in the winter. Nice. Okay. This map's interesting because Devil's Tower is up over here, right? And this is the Black Hills. This is where we did most of our field camp. Now we're going to zoom in a little bit. You can see this is South Dakota. That's the border. This is Wyoming. This is the northeast corner. Let's go down a little bit here. And let's look at this legend. You see these oranges here. What are these oranges? Tertiary, phonolite, and trachyte. We'll come back to that. Okay. Point is, they're volcanic. Devil's Tower's here. There's many more volcanics up here. So they are in the area. The engineer and the earth scientist guy were wrong. I mean, unless they were talking about the shape. But they didn't say that because the shape is different from the composition. We do have other compositional lava flows that are essentially the same in the area. So that's not true. Or I'm not going to call them liars for that. They just might have had a geomorphic picture in their head and not a geologic one. And we have some petrology here. These are something called phenocrysts. I actually have a sample that was given to me from the lava at Devil's Tower. It was collected legally. So I don't want to hear anything about it. And you can see, here's the concept. Now we're going to get into this, the cross-section generic. You see phonolites, true intrusive, that's this. Debris jet deposits. You can kind of think of this, what do I want to say? This is basically a volcano without a neck. It's not a super volcano. It's not that big. It's not Yellowstone. All right, it's just not that big, but it's like kind of like a small version of that, if you will. That's the model. And they've done some experiments in the lab to see if this pans out. And they've also done some other things. They've actually tried to reproduce this thing. And here's the top view of the reproduction, and here's the side view when they cut it open. Now, what do you see here? You see the different colors. You see the light gray and the blue. And you can see it comes up here and the melt would flow and then it changes direction. But you kind of see this coming back a little bit and then it's kind of round as it goes this way. So if the flow is going to the left or to the right, which way would you expect to see your columnar jointing? Your columnar jointing should be vertical because that would be perpendicular. So all the columnar jointing here should be vertical until you get near this area. Now this would be all underground. You can't see it. So where's Devil's Tower fit into this? Well, the correct answer is the vast majority of it's gone. It would be eroded. And they can't get this to work. See, dip angles and vertical. See, modeling. And here's Devil's Tower. This is all that's left. So it's like the neck of the diatribe, if you will. So you're going to get sort of leveling out columnar jointing as you get down here because it is coming up this way. And then it starts going left or right. So then the columnar jointing turns to vertical. And it does solve the problem. Now, this is all gone, but we know this happens. And I think most geologists today do accept this explanation. of it. And so it's not really an enigma at this point. Okay, now let's get into the woo videos. These are all TikTok, because you can get complicated science in 3 minutes, right? What do all those geologists know? I'm a dude on the internet with a phone. I'm a genius.
Harry tells me you're quite the science whiz. I'm something of a scientist myself.
One video is not woo-woo. It actually attempts to combat the woo. And there's one that has music. I hope I turn it off in time because it's so obnoxious. So we'll talk about it without the music. There might even be this one. Oh, seek the truth. This is going to be enlightening. I roll. Oh, it's just this. Oh, so I put a picture to a place I've never been, tell everyone I'm a truth seeker, and then slap some bullshit about a tree up top. Science.
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
Many people believe that.
What does this nice young lady have to say? Devil's Tower, Part 1. I don't have Part 2 here. Part 1's mind-numbing enough.
This is a mountain. Go ahead and take a good look at this.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's known as Devil's Tower.
At least it's spelled correctly.
It looks very similar to a tree stump.
Pareidolia doesn't mean much anything. You've got to demonstrate that it is a fossilized tree stump. Something looks like something doesn't mean it's it. Actually, let's address that now. My favorite thing to do, and rock formations that look like genitals. Okay, guys, I was going to show you rock formations that look like genitalia, but I decided not to do that because I don't want to get demonetized. Now, I will go over the ones that I know are real. Like this is, I know it is. This, I know is too. Almost looks like the Sphinx, doesn't it? It's not. If you walk to the front of this, it's not going to look anything like the Sphinx. This is just pareidolia in action. This one, too, is real. Looks like a wave, right? Or humans dug it out. It's not. Okay, it's not a fossilized rock version of a wave in the ocean. That just makes no fucking sense. Do we have the elephant? Yeah, that's got to be a fossilized elephant, right? I mean, it has to be. Can't just be erosion. I've seen this one before. Kind of looks like the side of somebody's head with a hat. But you look at it from the front, doesn't mean that's what it looks like. It's just all pareidolia. And some of the stuff I don't know if they're real or not, so I'm just not going to address them. The point is, because something looks like something that triggers your pattern recognition, it doesn't mean it's that thing. Okay? I mean, there's no bark on this. You look at the top of this from Google Earth, there's no rings. These are the hexagonal outlines of the cross sections of columnar joints. That's what this is. So there's nothing tree-like about this. I did hear one conspiracy nut say that these are cells, like plant cells, like in the plant, like biological cells. So yeah, now we have cells that are 3 meters wide and 300 meters long. It's news to me. I never knew we had cells like that. Must have been some mighty cells. Good Lord. I mean, this is just ridiculous on so many levels. Just look at it. Just look at it in detail, people.
People are claiming that this was a gigantic tree at one time.
I believe this is the non-woo one.
Here as well, too. These are just stumps from trees that were thousands of feet tall.
See, that last one had columnar jointing in it, too? See? I mean, because it erodes, you get columnar jointing, it's going to fall off the flanks.
Tall, I don't think so. In the fossil record, 330 feet is the highest, and today, as you can see here, up to 380 feet. Besides,
okay, so just under 400 feet is this tall. Okay, so we're still looking at 100-odd meters.
Before the flood, there was only 1,600 years of growth. There's no way.
But, but I'll stop.
Why do people get so upset when
This guy, this clown. Might as well just put the wig and nose on now, dude.
whenever you say that the Devil's Tower is a tree that had been cut down and this is just a stump?
Now, I know, he looks like he's smiling. He might just be doing this to get attention. I don't know, but I don't know that, so I'm going to take his word for it. And I'll tell you why people get mad. Because it's not a fucking tree stump.
I posted a few videos and prove without a shadow of a doubt that this is the case.
Oh, he proved without a shadow of a doubt. Okay, dude. Now I guess science works like a courtroom.
And even with all the proof, you still got people that say stuff like this. Dig out a root and I'll believe you.
That's actually a completely reasonable request. That's how science works. Get your nasty hands dirty, dig a hole, do some seismology, something to show that there's roots down there. Don't just put a picture up that you never took, because I know you've never been there, and sit there and talk about stuff you know nothing about. Even if you think you're doing and being funny, it's still misinformation.
No, you won't.
Yeah, we would, because that's what science does. We get new evidence, we change our minds, fit the evidence. It's conspiracy nuts that don't change their minds.
No, you won't. But for all the other people that know what I'm saying, this one's for you. So I came across this the other day, and this is from...
Just so you know, this is from a Facebook post. I will show you the Facebook post. You might be able to tell behind his head.
Casper Planet. And check this out. A huge and startling discovery has been made.
Okay, I'm going to read this, since his reading is not the fastest.
A flying rock! Call a geologist!
Here we go. A huge and startling discovery has been made at the Devil's Tower in Wyoming. Scientists from the Wyoming State Parks Department were conducting photographic seismic readings below the tower. I don't know what photographic seismic readings are, but whatever. I know what seismic readings are. When they discovered an incredibly large petrified root system below the tower, the Parks Department released a statement saying, "We have discovered what looks like a giant root system stemming from the base of Devil's Tower. The root system has been measured at 4 miles deep by 7 miles wide." Remember those numbers. We are currently conducting studies and tests to confirm that this is actually a root system and not a coincidence. The discovery is on the edge of rewriting history and science as we know it. We will continue to update you with any information, as information be very limited, blah, blah, blah. This thing is even warning you to take it with a grain of salt. By the way, Casper Planet is satire. Okay, now he's going to make the claim here. You see this? He's going to be talking about this that link.
Now that website has since been deleted, and I kind of wonder why, but I don't wonder.
Number one, there's absolutely zero evidence that that link was ever active, that that website was ever active. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you. You can buy it if you want. I'm going to show you can. And when I checked into this several years ago, the situation was the same. Nobody's bought it. You can't just sit there and say it was shut down because conspiracy. As far as anyone can tell, it was never actually used.
Pretty interesting stuff though, right? Have a good one.
If you're an idiot.
You know, the funniest
This guy's even worse.
thing to me is like when we post information that's like been damn near proven to be true, and like people still just don't want to believe it.
What you think is true doesn't mean it's true. There's nothing true about anything you're about to claim. When I originally did the digging to find this claim, it took me all about 10 minutes to find everything. But people just don't care. They just grab onto it. And this isn't even personal bias. That's why I'm not sitting there saying, it's the way they were raised. This is just flat out stupidity. To believe something this ridiculous takes a very large amount of cognitive disconnect. It really does. It's not just a simple matter of bias. It's not.
Are they tell me that I need to go there to prove it to them or something? Even though that they've already found a root system under Devil's Tower? That was like back in 2017, by the way.
Well, yeah, this bullshit did start floating around 2017, the Casper stuff.
Like, this is old news. Like, this isn't something that was just presented to y'all. This was back in 2017 when they found the roots.
Nobody found any roots.
So, I don't know. Y'all tell me. Like, do I really need to go there just to prove it to y'all that Devil's Tower is actually an old petrified tree stump?
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of do. You really should take your butt there and do some actual investigation.
Or are we just going to sit here on TikTok and argue about it?
There is no argument. Science doesn't give a rat's ass about arguments. Arguments are starting points. They aren't evidence or proof of anything. And neither are your fucking roots.
Smell Drake's fart from 2018? Bro, how did you even know I had that? Like, of course I do, but like, how did you know?
All right. Let's see. Oh, aliens and cryptids. Oh my god.
No matter how strange things get here, they just get stranger. There is a national monument in Wyoming known as Devil's Tower. Now, this is a rock, a very old rock, and is the only one of its massive size in the area, surrounded by trees. At first glance, this looks like a mountain.
It's surrounded by trees because it's protected. There were trees down there a long time ago too, but that's not protected.
Or just a large mass of rock left behind after erosion.
Yeah, pretty much. So far, so good.
Now, this wouldn't seem strange, except for that this rock has a shape that is eerily similar to that of a tree stump. And if you think that's crazy...
Oh, he's definitely dropped the beat, so now we know it's true.
There are many more of these around the world. So the only question that remains, if a structure like this is an ancient tree stump,
which is a physical possibility. But you know, physics, biology, geology be damned. I saw a video on the internet. Checkmate.
Then who the hell cut it down? Now, I would say since the last World War, we've been living in an age of revelation. What I mean is, the knowledge about the true world we live in is coming to light. Most of us would agree that the world millions of years ago, maybe even only thousands of years ago, was a very, very different place. And in order for this to make sense, we're going to have to go back pre-flood.
Oh, my God. Here we go. Here we go. I'm sorry, Huck. Exposing you to this.
Think about this. How bad of a place does the earth have to be in order for God to say, nope, that's it. I'm wiping everything out and starting over from scratch.
I'm not going to deal with the religious aspect of this.
I mean, what did the angels and men do to this place? And their children, by God, the Nephilim? What do you think they did to this place while they were here? I can only assume that they terraformed our planet into a total wasteland.
Well, apparently they invented the chainsaw and cut down the tree that became Devil's Tower, apparently.
Now, I'm going to take you through some basic things so that I can build a case for what I'm about to present.
And that's all you need to see of that, because it just gets worse and worse. It does not get better. Go to Facebook. Do what I did. Type in Casper Planet Devil's Tower. It's still posted there. July 31st, 2017. This comes up. Does that look like 4 by 7 miles to you? Considering the fact this is 300 meters. And yeah, so that's probably 700 at the most. Not even a kilometer. Like, you know, half a mile, a little more. So this is not miles by miles. And somebody did find this picture. It's a root system of something, but it's not a tree. And since I don't remember what it is, I'm not going to tell you or give my guess because I don't know. Now, here's what that dude was rambling off and I had to read to you. And here's this website. You click on that. Ta-da! So it's available if you want it, but there's absolutely zero evidence that this was shut down. So you got to show that if you're going to claim that. As far as I can tell, just no one's ever bought it. So there's more of that. Let's see. All right. What kind of rock is Devil's Tower? Why do we think this thing is volcanic or igneous in origin? Why do we think that and don't think it's a tree stump because it looks like a tree stump? Okay. Well, because we take our fat asses, in my case, up to the fucking thing and we look at it. All right, now I'm going to show you here. These are some notes. This is the same type of rock. Okay, this was given to me. Okay, so we're just going to look at it. Okay, so here's my notes taking a sample from Devil's Tower. Okay, and it's just a bit of the rock. I'm going to do basic petrographic analysis. I'm going to not walk you through the process, but show you. This is a sample. Here's a scale. This is in inches because America. So, but you know, an inch is what? 2.5 centimeters, something like that. And I'll give you an idea. So, do you see anything in here that looks tree-like? I don't. What do I see? I see these nearly white and gray crystals in this ground mass. That ground mass is the aphanitic fine grain part. These are phenocrysts. This is not a phaneritic rock. It is aphanitic. This part just happens to have a lot of phenocrysts in it. There's other parts where there's almost none. It just depends on where they formed. Now here's one up close. 1/10 of an inch, so what, about 0.25 centimeters, so 2.5 millimeters this is. So this is the size, all right? So there's the phenocryst, and you can see there's striations on it, strong indications. Plagioclase, you know, feldspar. Here's the density of it. I did a bunch of tests on this centimeter cubed sample, whatever. I even managed to get some of the crystals out, and here they are. The phenocryst, this is not quartz at all. The crystal system shows it's clearly some sort of feldspar. Okay, so, and here's the densities on average, and we get through it with other testing, you know, mineral hardness. This is typical for feldspars and aphanitic rocks. Here's the scratch test. One of these is the mineral number. Oh, that's because there's multiple minerals I found in here. That's right. There's the acid test. So you can see I didn't just like declare something. I put this under a microscope and looked at it, right? So you come out, and we'll get to this here in a second, but you get a nepheline phonolite and arguably nepheline trachyte to nepheline phonolite porphyry. You can add porphyry after that because of the phenocrysts and porphyritic. It's a texture, it's not a rock name. There's the references and everything. All right, so we're going to close that. I'm going to show you this. Now, this is just something that bothers me because I hear everybody. I hear earth scientists, that guy, that minute guy, archaeologist who's really young and really popular on YouTube and TikTok. He even said it. Devil's Tower is basalt. No, it is not.
Matotopia is a columnar basalt monadnock.
And it's not like it's andesite or beryllium dacite here. Well, first of all, we're going to use this one on the right, not the one on the left. The one on the left is for phaneritic rocks. We do not have a phaneritic. We have an aphanitic. So we're going to use the one on the right. And you can see, mineralogically, phaneritic and aphanitic rocks have equivalents. Rhyolite is mineralogically the same as granite. It's just fine crystalline. So, the bottom half, we don't usually use it. Guess what? We are going to use it. The vast majority of the rock at Devil's Tower classifies as phonolite to void-bearing trachyte. It's in this area right here. Basalt's way over here. They're complete opposite ends of this chart. Not to mention, those of you that follow me, why is there a bottom and a top part? Well, Q is quartz. K-spar or alkali feldspar plagioclase. Voids down here. Quartz and voids cannot physically crystallize out of the same melt. If you have one, you won't have the other. Basalts can have, look, it's because it's hard to tell, but the vast majority of basalts do have a little bit of quartz in them. The Devil's Tower samples have absolutely zero quartz in them. We can tell because we have nepheline in there. So those phenocrysts and stuff were not really plagioclase necessarily. They were other things. So this is why you've got to look at the rock. All right, we're going to just go back to this here for a second. So what sample and a case bar? So these are the percents I broke out. Maphoids, nepheline, and probably nosine, which is also nosolite. We did have some plagioclase because the feldspars and phoids can form together, obviously. But there's no quartz in here. See, it's in the bottom here. So, and I originally called it nosine nepheline phonolite, but, I changed it. See, because this is just analysis. This is just taking things and analyzing. There's no interpretation in this. Right. So, yes, and as you can see here, when I did it, this is what I got. But the plot on the QAPF I showed you, this is more inclusive for more samples that I found. But this is where mine was, right here. Okay? So, and the area around its margin of error, deviation, that kind of thing. So, yeah, so that's it. You look back at the rock, and you look at the crystals. The crystal's small, and I love this picture because it just shows you it. And this is under hand lens. This is before I actually had a digital microscope to look at it. But man, I mean, there's nothing in this thing that looks anything like the product of a tree at all. Number one, since this is a phoid-rich phonolite trachyte, that immediately tells us it has to be igneous. Phonolites do not form from fossilized material. That's not how it works. Phonolites form from a melt. Okay? We know this. This is stuff we can do in a lab. This is not rocket science. All right? That's not how this works. You're not going to get a tree turn into a phonolite with phenocrysts at all. That's not going to happen. And if you knew your ass from a hole in the ground, because you apparently don't know a rock from a tree, you would learn how to actually do this, conspiracy people. I'm talking to them. I'm not talking to my general audience. You guys are cute. Anyway. So I think that's it. I think I'm going to wrap this up here. All right. I don't want this to get too long. Anyway, that's it. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And I hope you learned something.